This is the College Football Connection Podcast with Alvin Reed, Bradford Bruns, and Marty Jenkins on 101 ESPN.
Forget air raid. Any type of aerial prowess would be much appreciated for the University of Oklahoma in 2025. How's it going out there, everybody? Bradford Bruns back with you. We are live. We are here in Creve Coeur from our home base. It's a brand new episode of the College Football Connection, only on 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, as well as 101ESPN.com. A few days ago, we took this program on the road, albeit for a brief bite-sized version. You knew that your boy had to venture out there to Como Memorial Stadium for the beginning of Tigers Camp, fall camp that is 2025. And rest assured, we're going to have a lot of updates therein, sprinkle in some nuggets to come in the days and the weeks ahead. But today, for the purpose of this episode, it is time to get back into preview mode, right? When it comes to the SEC Titans for many different teams and their respective schedules. So far, we have dissected Tennessee. We have deconstructed South Carolina, Auburn, most recently Georgia. And today, it is time to go to Norman. And this may sound a little familiar, strikingly familiar, in fact, to what you heard a week or so ago when we talked about those Georgia Bulldogs. The faithful in Norman, not exactly enthused, especially with the way in which the 2024 campaign concluded for that team. 3 years now on the job, and in two of them, indeed, for Brent Venables in Norman, the Sooners have posted sub-500 finishes. That is not up to snuff for this absolutely well-regarded program in the annals of college football history. It is not something that can be tolerated, frankly, moving forward by the administration, by the powers that be. A lot of investments have been made, and you would think that that seat is exceedingly hot for Venables entering 2025. Last year, the 6-7 finish, it was disappointing. 2-6 in league play as well, for a number of different reasons. And that multitude of reasons, yes, you have to reference and you have to mention the O-line play, the O-line contributors who were not available for long stretches of the campaign. We understand that. We understand that only one guy actually suited up and started in all 13 tilts. We understand as well that 10 different O-line configurations were used during the entirety of the season. But at the same time, that cannot completely explain how Oklahoma, in its first year debut, maiden voyage in the SEC per se, plummeted all the way down nationwide in basically every essential offensive category. 119th in passing yardage per game. And sure, you can look at Jackson Arnold, what turned out to be a misbegotten era in Oklahoma football. This is somebody who was so well regarded coming in, a much ballyhooed recruit. Ironically, he has now transferred elsewhere within the conference to Auburn. The Sooners and the Tigers, they will meet pretty quickly into the festivities in 2025. But it wasn't on Arnold alone. Sure, did he hang on to the ball too long on entirely too many occasions? Absolutely. He absorbed sack after sack after sack, drive after drive after drive, halted, no doubt about it. He perhaps didn't contribute as much on the ground as you would have thought with somebody considering so much mobility, so much elusiveness, and he was marketed, he was characterized as a guy who could execute those off-platform throws and keep the chains moving. But at the same time, so many different contributing factors, and really, they all coalesced into this ugly, ugly offensive stew, because it just wasn't about Arnold failing to meet mammoth expectations. Rather, you had wide receivers, namely a Deion Burks, unable to stay on the field, unable to stay healthy to boot for the majority of the campaign. And even when they were able to return to the playing surface, to the lineup, the fact that Oklahoma couldn't get vertical, again, for all of the aforementioned reasons, limiting the upside of somebody like a Burks. He turned from a vertical threat into somebody who was utilized primarily in intermediate and underneath situations. Heck, the tight ends virtually were able to generate more production than was Deion Burks. That cannot happen once again. That cannot be replicated this coming fall. So what has Oklahoma been able to do in the preceding months to try to remedy that situation? Well, First and foremost, it starts with the new trigger man for the offense. That would be John Mateer coming over from formerly Pac-12 country, Pacific Northwest, Wazoo. He commanded and orchestrated that attack a year ago with great aplomb, and perhaps the best part of all of this for Oklahoma fans and the faithful out there, bringing along with him his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle. We talked about the air raid. We had that reference at the top, right? But as far as spreading the ball all around the yard, and it really does work hand in hand, right? You need the O-line play. You need Mateer to be able to remain upright. So if he has that rocket arm, but he's unable to unleash it to its full effect, what good is that going to do for your team to be able to complement what was a tremendous defense one season ago? Well, the good news as well is that perhaps he's not as mobile, right, as a Jackson Arnold. But this is somebody in Mateer who also is more than willing to take the ball, tuck it down, and run when absolutely necessary. You look at some of the numbers from last season, guys. 44 total touchdowns. That was an FBS high. And while he didn't exactly light it up against a couple of the quality, more top-tier programs that he encountered, he is deadly efficient. He has that arm, as we have referenced, and if nothing else, will provide a welcome infusion of energy and a jolt for this offense, especially with the new play caller also coming on board. So Oklahoma is bullish about its prospects all over again at the signal caller spot and also in the backfield. Hey, Javonte was just fine last year. You're talking about somebody, a returning upperclassman who averaged 4.7 yards per carry and was able to total more than 700 altogether. But when identifying a potential home run hitter, and that was the element lacked by OU in its backfield, in its rotation last season. Jaden Ott very well could be that guy coming over from Cal. He had an injury-plagued year as well. He played through it in 2024, but still more than 3,000 all-purpose yards accumulated over the course of his first 3 seasons of eligibility. It is going to be another welcome shot in the arm to enliven the offensive proceedings at Oklahoma. From the offensive line standpoint, it still comes down to continuity. It comes down to being able to develop these guys. But I don't really trust anybody in the country, guys, more than Venables and his well-regarded longtime assistant there at the O-line level to be able to develop this group. And it's going to have to happen in short order. You would assume, you would anticipate that, again, this defense is going to be nails. It's going to have to be when looking at and evaluating the schedule all over again, because beyond that early Week 2 clash against Michigan. Yeah, that's right. The Wolverines already. This is just the second all-time matchup. I can't wait for it personally between these two unbelievable programs. And given how Michigan finished last season, given all the expectations surrounding the Wolverines' own new quarterback in Underwood, that is going to be a titanic challenge in Week 2. But beyond that, you basically do have a holding pattern of sorts until October the 11th rolls around, and then Texas is in your own backyard. The following week, you go to South Carolina, and then, garden variety challenges against Ole Miss, for crying out loud, against Mizzou, at Alabama, LSU, all these teams on the schedule down the stretch. So when I am given that potential number of 6.5 overall over-under, given all of the talent on this roster, despite all of the talent on this roster, I understand why out there in the audience, I understand why you have reservations about hammering the over. There is, however, so much talent on this team, this makeup, the roster constitution. And again, do not undersell whatsoever the importance of Venables this season making that leap and taking this rise for the program. 22-17 over the course of the first 3 seasons. I have to think that he is able to get a couple of games over 500 this season, if for no other reason than due to the defense. Progressively, year after year, ever since the arrival a few seasons ago in Norman, this Sooners defense has absolutely been able to embrace Venables, his principles, what he wants to do, attack mode, and it has slowly improved with each and every year, going from averaging, giving up 30 points per game in that first 6-7 finish down to 23, and then last year 21 points allowed per game, and that's when your offense only managed to average 13 points per contest in SEC competition. This defense, guys, was out on the field forever, all of the time, and still was a top 10 to top 20 unit nationally in basically every statistical category that mattered. Sure, do you have to replace your pillar at the linebacker position in a Danny Stutzman? Absolutely. That's going to take some time. But an R. Mason Thomas, also Stone, coming back. He had entered the portal and then decided to return to school after all. 8 returning starters on the defensive side of the football. So that is reason enough. That is reason for optimism on my end to be able to slightly give Oklahoma that necessary uptick. I'm not saying that this team, a la Phil Steele, is going to be able to sniff double-digit victories. It's going to be able to sniff CFP prospects. But on talent alone, go 7, go 8. Just don't get too greedy, and also look forward, of course, to that rematch against Mizzou. It is going to be in Norman this year, so maybe a little more tricky for those Tigers as well, but that is something into which we can dig as we move along later in the season on the College Football Connection. My name is Bradford Bruns. Guys, as per usual, thank you very much for hanging out with us for this latest preview. We are going to be talking Alabama. We are going to be talking Ole Miss, as well as a number of different outfits yet to be previewed so far here on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel, and definitely more MU-centric talk in just a few days. So my name is Bradford Bruns. Again, thank you very much, St. Louis, and everybody else out there in the audience. And until next time, we will see you and talk with you very, very soon.
Thanks for listening to the College Football Connection podcast.